This is the Big Fish Cares Podcast. Big Fish Cares Podcast. And here's your host, Benny Fisher.
You're about to hear an incredible journey about how this guy beat cancer and a story about it. I'm with Vince. Is it Cortese or Cortez?
Actually, you said it right both times.
I was like, just realizing that. It's like, I only ever call you Vince, and it's like, oh, is it Cortese, Cortese?
Well,
like,
it was, Dad came over from the Castro, which was in Calabria, just right near Sicily. And when they did the Ellis Island thing, they was so conscious of wanting to be American or Americanized. So a lot of families changed the spelling of their names. In this case, he kept the spelling, grandfather did, but he changed how he was pronounced. So instead of Cortese, which is more the Italian pronunciation, he says Cortez, which kind of makes me multicultural when you get that way.
There you go. Yeah, I like it. A Spaniard and an Italian, right? You know, maybe.
Yeah, we're mixing it up a bit, huh?
There you go. Well, I met you through your podcast. I was a guest on the Leave Your Mark podcast. Tell me about how that whole Leave Your Mark thing got started, because I feel like there's a good story there.
Well, getting over the cancer, it was one of those things where it can be very personal. And a lot of people don't like to talk about it, or it comes almost like a shaming of sort. And I felt like on the inward side, it was going to be difficult to talk about it like openly. And then it was like, as I realized what I had been blessed to survive and go through, it would be a big advantage for a lot of people to hear what I went through to provide some hope. And it was one of those things where the other things online weren't working so well. And my friend Debbie kept saying, you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. And so I was like, well, what do I do it on? And it was like, well, duh, it's obvious what you should do it on. So we get on there, and it was like, for me, I never thought I would be on doing a podcast. It was nothing that was premeditated. I was being a brick and mortar entrepreneur. So like this whole idea of what the internet brings is, for entrepreneurs, it's very exciting because the options are unlimited is what you can do. So the idea then of getting on a podcast, promoting, some hope and inspiration for people to go through the trials and misfortunes of life, it's like, this could be a really cool thing. So, per her encouragement and, Steve Harvey helping me out with one of his 3-minute sessions there in between Family Feud. And, you get what it is that you need to get on with, and you just go. And you're called your calling. And for me, it felt natural to be in a situation where I was storytelling and where it was something that you would feel like the individual listener as well as the person delivering the story would get something out of it. So here we are. We're up to 80 episodes, and we're 2.5 years old.
80 episodes. How long was it after? I don't know. Do you ever beat cancer? Is that like a thing, or do you just say I'm in
remission?
Remission. What's the appropriate term?
I think it depends on the type of cancer which you have. Like for myself, what was really interesting, I was on the immunology, so I didn't go through radiation or chemo. And the stuff that I did have that was like that, the treatment was laser. So it wasn't considered traditional chemo or radiation. So I was IV-ing it, and then my body responded like exactly as the medication was intended. So it's like, the thought behind, getting cancer was your immune system has failed you, so the medicine of what you're taking is going to boost your immune system to heal you. So it's like, okay. And 66 doses later, and 2.5 years, I don't have to take the medication anymore because the cancer not only quit growing, it started to shrink.
Wow.
So, yeah, and the part that is really incredible about that drug had just hit the market. So a large extent, it was still a clinical trial because it was the first time into the general public.
Were you a guinea pig?
Yeah, a bit of. At that point, believe it or not, that was still a better shot for me than doing the clinical trial in Los Angeles where the operation was. So you just, you learn a different perspective on life as you go through the process. And a lot of things that were important to you aren't important anymore. And you have a different type of conversation with yourself when it's the issue of life or death. And so cancer is a major head game. It can make your mind go in some horrific places. But you just, the idea of being grateful and believing that you can heal and getting yourself in that space and just the miracles of life can happen for you, but you have to believe that they can and meet them. You can't just, I want a miracle and just do nothing or do the same things you did before you had the cancer. You got to do your part.
So how long was it before, you kind of were through the cancer treatments, realized that you were going to survive, and then started that podcast? How much time had passed?
Probably at the end of the treatments, it was maybe another 18 months.
Oh, okay. So this is all then, within the last 4 years ago, you pretty much got through that.
Yeah.
And you said you had the cancer. How long were you dealing with it? You said for a couple of years?
It's about 5 years, 5.5.
5 years. And how old are you for the viewers and listeners at home?
I'm 59 and holding on with my fingernails. I go 60 at the end of the month.
Dude, you're looking good for 60, man. I'll tell you that. You're definitely looking good for 60. What was that feeling like? How did you find out you had cancer, and what kind of cancer did you have?
Okay, he called it renal carcinoma, which was kidney cancer. And immediately when he said it, I detached myself from the situation thinking, I'm not the guy who gets cancer. That happens to somebody else. And I actually dialogued that to the guy. And he's looking, what I didn't know was the local scan was just my abdomen. And it's a 12-pound tumor. So the cancer went outside of the frame of the local scan. And he's going, oh, no, you have cancer, all right. You definitely have cancer.
You got a 12-pound tumor inside of you?
Yeah.
So at what point did you figure this out? Like, was something hurting you? Did you just go in for a regular doctor check?
It was kind of interesting because I would have bouts where I would do like a blackout, or I would lose my balance, and I towards the end when I went to the hospital 8 months later, I was falling down. But
and you were just like, what? Right? You just thought that was normal, or tell me, were you just in denial? You think? Were you scared?
I knew what was going on was I would have terrible night sweats, which was like slimes, I would say. But I was noticing it more when I came back from Christmas in 2014, beginning of 2014, New Year's then. I went to my primary care doctor 6 times from January to first week of April. And we were doing all kind of biopsy and stool samples and blood samples. It was crazy. And he was like, he's saying, you're just anemic. And I'm like, I'm a 51-year-old male. That's not an explanation. It's just out of the clear blue. I'm anemic. There's got to be a reason for that. Well, what was happening was that thing is a blood-seeking cancer, and it was just going to work. It was eating my flesh. So when I was having the night sweats, it wasn't every night either. So it was I would have a bout where 3 or 4 nights would be bad, and it's okay, it's time to go back and see the doctor. He didn't have medication for it. I went through the scans and the tests, so it was kind of something's still wrong. But it's I would go week, 10 days, nothing happened. I didn't have a night sweat. I didn't fall down or anything. So it's next thing you know, 7, 8 months has gone by. But towards the latter part of that, I started to lose weight really fast. Month is 7, 8, and then the 9th month, I was in the hospital getting a CT scan. And that was when he told me I had the cancer. So it was I had a meltdown. it's kind of funny how fast a year can go by, because you get, like, living in Los Angeles, you're consumed with so much stuff. With, you're in the middle of 9 million people, so you rush to wait. You go on the highway to be in a parking lot. There's a level of tolerance at which you have to live in that neighborhood. So when that kind of stress is added on to your resources weren't good, and just life began to unfold, and it's like that's the kind of stuff that can create cancer. Your life is not stable, and things fall apart.
So this is good, because I didn't think that was a thing. So you think that your outside environment and like where you live and the stress and like what you tolerate, you think that can cause cancer?
It's in this case, it was an ingredient, because I had a business and a house and a wife, and all these things went away. So I was like, entrepreneurially speaking.
When did they go away?
That was probably like around 2010, 2011.
So you had a business, you had a wife. What kind of business did you have?
We're an apparel business. I was selling clothes to the armed forces, the PX Online, the Army Air Force Exchange.
How long were you married?
That was like 8 years, I guess.
Okay, and then wow, there's a lot to unpack here. So here, I want to go back. I want to go back to the cancer though, because then we'll get back into Vince before cancer. What was it like when the doctor comes in? Because everyone's picturing it like it is on the movies or on TV, right? That you're sitting there nervous. You're in the office waiting for the doctor to come in to pull out the file and be like, "Hey, Vince, you have cancer." What did that feel like?
I felt claustrophobic. It was bizarre. I was like, I need to get a new freaking body, because this one's shot. It's like, it was the reality of you're not a human being. You're a spiritual consciousness, like, just crashed. And I was like, oh my God, this body, my body's ruined. It's like, as soon as my body goes, I'm out of here. And I'm like, I got so much more to give. And I didn't experience like the remorse thing. I thought of my parents, and I was like, my parents are just incredible. And I really did not want them to see their child die. Like, that was heavy on my heart. Like, it was a big part of my frame of mind moving forward, that I was going to get better. And so, yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm not identifying with it, and then it happens to somebody else, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm trapped. And so the doctor leaves the room, and I'm in there by myself, I have my own room. And you have that moment, it's like you're God. Does it have to end like this? Like, and did I do something wrong? Like, why am I getting cut short here? And
did he give you did he say how bad it was when he told you had it? Did he say like you have so long to live, or it's treatable?
Well, they gave me, like, initially, what was kind of bizarre, I was getting delirious, because at that point I'd probably lost close to 70 pounds of weight.
How much did you weigh? How much did you weigh at your
I was about 228 pounds, 230 pounds.
Wow. And you went down to like 150.
153.
Woo!
I was emaciated.
Wow.
Unrecognizable. Actually, they talked me into it. I put the picture of myself in the wheelchair the day before the day of the operation, because they had me prepped. They had me leave the hospital. I was in a hotel prepping myself for like 4 days. Well, they put a team of doctors together. So there's 4 oncologists and 4 cardiologists, because I'm going to have an open heart surgery the same time they're going to remove my left kidney.
Wait, why? Wait, what's open heart surgery got to do with kidney cancer?
Well, the kidney encapsulated, it was like that 12-pound tumor just kept swelling. but it's been blood-seeking cancers, and it went up my vena cava, comes around the back of my heart, and it's got like 80% blockage on the left ventricle of my heart. So like when they did the full scans, you know, because I transported twice. I was started out at the West Valley Hospital in San Fernando Valley, go from there over to Wilshire, UCLA Wilshire on Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica, and they're like, we don't have the equipment here either. We're not equipped for your situation, so what we are going to do is we're going to perform an operation on you, but at Ronald Reagan, we don't have a team of doctors together for your type of situation. And so, you know, we know the clock's ticking because you could either have that cancer grow strong enough that it suffocates your heart, or your lungs could fill with blood and you could be dead. And so that's what I was living with for, you know, thinking they got to hurry up and get this operation.
How long before the time they told you you had cancer at the time you had the operation?
It was 22 days.
That would be the longest 22 days of your life.
Yeah. I kept thinking the whole time was, if I'm going to pass, because I'd given it away. It was like if I was going to die, I accepted I was going to die. I just wanted to let my last moments be happy. So everybody that came around me, my family, my niece, my nephew, it was just one of those where everything kind of went into slow motion. And I just enjoyed every laughter or every movement. And it was like I found peace in what was highly stressful. But it was when I met the lead doctor, when they said, you know, we're going to have you check out here, you're going to go in the hotel and here's what's going on. But here's the doctor who's putting the team of people together, Dr. Chamey. And the gentleman had such like a magical feel to him for me. Like I connected with his energy right away. And it was like I felt 100% confident if I was going to survive the operation, it would be because good Lord was going to work through this man's hands and his mindset. And he had a fantastic game plan, because his whole thing was he wanted to just give me a chance. And the chance would be is like, you know what? He's got it in his lungs too, and we can't do a triple operation, but what we can do is we can give him some time and see what can happen out there. And, you know, that's what we can do. So we're going to perform a double operation. So in the next 11 days, he's recruiting guys. I'm told 2 of these 8 doctors came from vacation with their families. And UCLA Reagan is a special place because it's a teacher's hospital. So there's 3 or 4 sets of eyes on you along with the lead doctor.
World class.
Oh my, it was, you know what? For the situation I was in, I couldn't have been in a better place. Honest to God. It was.
Are you from LA or are you from Pittsburgh?
No, I'm from Pittsburgh. I got the Quaker haircut.
I mean, I hear you, man. I'm just trying
I gotta
to
wear it. Look, I gotta put my lick in there. That's WPIL champs. They're still there. They're holding on until March. Then
so many things that I want to ask you about. So during those 22 days when you're waiting for the operation, like, did you have like a date scheduled, or were you just kept waiting day by day until they called you?
There was no date scheduled.
There was not hey, we're going to get you in 3 weeks. It was like every day you're waiting by the phone for the call.
Yeah.
Wow, that's even worse.
So you were, well, that's why I said it was like once you had found out you had cancer, what's going on? What was going on is I was at that point overwhelmed by being that light, lost that much weight. I literally had about 20 minutes a day, maybe 30 minutes where I actually had some energy. So like if I was going to go eat or if I was going to need to use the bathroom or something, because I was just completely
and you guys
exhausted.
have In-N-Out burgers in California. How did you not gain some weight with some In-N-Out burgers?
I lost it all. It was at the end before when I went into the emergency room, I probably lost about 15 or 20 of it in a day or two. And then it was like I had no strength left. Really. I mean, I was for the first time in my life I experienced fatigue. And fatigue is different than being tired or run out or run down. Fatigue is you're a blob. You're like a sloth. You got nothing. And it's just sucking your energy. So it's like that level of where I hit, because the cancer had just gotten the better of me. It was like it was just going to overtake me. I had gotten so weak. I don't really recall the pain or much pain, but it was.
Did they ask you, or did they tell you, like, oh, hey, you have a 60% chance of living, a 20% chance of living? Did they give you any type of?
Yeah, they gave me 30, 70.
37%. So at least, like,
30 to 70.
30 to 70. Yeah, that's a big range. That's garbage. You know what I mean? What? It's 1 out of 3.
Well, was that like?
That's like 1 out of 3 and 2 out of 3.
Yeah, it was one of those where I was going to be okay with whatever happened, because I mean, an operation that severe, I was on ice for 12 hours, and so I'm told that when you have an open heart surgery, that the body has to be maintained at a certain temperature, so that when they put the heart back in the chest cavity and they connect everything back up, the body responds accordingly. So I'm going somewhere around my navel or hips, packed in ice from the waist down. So you wouldn't know until after the operation I had this horrible neuropathy. I mean, actually, after the operation, I was in the wheelchair for a while because I couldn't stand up. I had lost feeling in my feet.
Wow.
So the whole thing on that was then I looked up Wim Hof. Everybody's into the Iceman, and he was in a block of ice for just under 2 hours, like an hour and 59 minutes or something. He's really close to 2 hours. So I'm thinking, my lower body was in the 3 times that. So it's like something had to happen to me. But the idea of I didn't come out with like I couldn't see or I couldn't hear or something that I didn't have, I came out without. You know what I'm saying? Like, outside of this 102 staples in my belly and I still have my life, it was like my body was just beat up. But it was like I was still whole. Like, you want to feel good, you're going to need to get after it. But it's like you got what you wanted. You got your life, and you got another chance, and make the most of it.
So during that 22 days, I'm trying to put myself in that position. I'm thinking 22 days, I'm living day by day, I'm still waiting on a call. What's your life like? I mean, obviously you weren't probably working. You probably said screw work, and this life life's too short.
I got my inner voice was kind of interesting because I got real peaceful. There wasn't like a whole lot of chatter. It was the idea of quiet or hearing small noises became entertaining, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, you're hypersensitive to like nature and like everything around you.
Yeah, anything. And so I was at peace with that. It was probably to my advantage that I was that weak, because I don't know what I would have done if I had my mobility.
Would you have went skydiving, or would you have went like you were like would you have done anything crazy? Like
I tried to work that stuff in. We went back in the day. We got shot off of the stratosphere in Vegas. So that needle.
Yeah.
There was a ride at the top. We went off of that. So it's like, I try to get that stuff out of the way before I have to do it this way.
What did you, when you called your parents? I'm assuming you called your parents and told them the news, or how'd you break that to mom and dad?
Yeah, that was when it hit me heavy, where I didn't want them to know. I didn't want to die. It was like the idea, if I was going to for selfish reasons, I was accepting of it, but I did not want them to experience that, and it was hard to tell them. I broke down. And
do they live here in Pittsburgh?
It was like I said, I was sort of delirious, so I kind of wasn't like melancholy. It's like, look, I got cancer. This is what's happening. They don't think I have much time to live, and it's like, I'm sorry, it's this way, and that's all I got. So my sister was visiting from Florida, and she was there when the call came in, and she immediately said, I'm going out there. And my brother Jim would come, and he would hear the same story. And he said, I'm going too. So, I mean, those two showed up. I don't think I was in that hospital 48 hours, and they were there from Pittsburgh out to L.A.
Did your parents come?
No, just they really couldn't because they're up in years.
Yeah.
In the late 70s, early 80s. Dad was 81. Mom was 79. So it would have, we didn't really have the facilities on the other side.
Yeah.
We're in a hotel room. So what they did, they came the day before the operation and stayed a couple days and then went back. But
so do you remember doing anything like, I don't know, what was one memory you had during that 22 days that you were like, wow, this was like the best day of my life? Was there one of those, like, where you just like really appreciated everything?
I had one, and it was kind of interesting because my brother was going to go get food. We were staying in a hotel, and when he went to go get food, that small window of energy I had, I'm like, I need to take a bath. It's like I can't stand up in a shower, but I could lay in a bath. My body just felt like I needed a bath. And as it would turn out, I make my way over there to get a bath, and I'm turning the water on, and it's tepid. I got the hot on, I got the cold on. I'm thinking, well, maybe hot water's on the other side of the building. Give it a chance to get over here. I'll just get in the tub. Wouldn't you know it, that thing never heated up.
Wim Hof, baby.
Yeah, so, and I don't know about this at that point. I mean,
right.
So I'm like, I'm taking a cold bath, and so. But I felt so good because it made my body comfortable even though the water was cold. So I wouldn't know this, that the whole place was out of hot water. So I don't know that until the next day because they get the little message light on the phone and they answer it, and it's the front desk apologizing that they were out of hot water yesterday evening. So when I go down to get the hospital and they asked me if I took a bath or a shower, and I was like, yeah, matter of fact, I did, and there was no hot water. And the lady goes, did you do that on purpose? And I was like, no. And I'm thinking, why would I take a cold bath on purpose? So, and she goes, well, that's actually with your condition the best thing that you could have done because it would help give you some energy and stabilize the cancer for the period of time you're in the water. So it turns out to be a good thing. So I'm thinking, I'm having these intimate conversations with God and everything's just all micromanaged down. I'm like, how about how the good Lord works that the whole hotel doesn't have water or hot water when I need to take a bath? Like, what is the chances?
He shut the whole thing down just for you, Vince.
And you're thinking, everything does happen for a reason is where you're going with it. So it's like I had this unusual sense of like confidence, really, or connection with my spirit. And I felt like everything's going to be fine here. So I had met the doctor before I went to the hotel. He's got the team. I'm in there. Go to the hospital. What's your name? Vince Cortese. Oh, really? You're the third Vince Cortese coming in here. So, like, Ronald Reagan's a big hospital. I'm going in to get a double operation. The first thing I think of is there's two other guys with the same name as me in here. What if they did perform the wrong operation?
Yeah, let's get the right operation.
Like, I'm getting nervous. And they're laughing. Oh, no, it's all done on the birthday and all this kind of thing. So it's like you get the gist of what this place is like.
Yeah.
But I see Dr. Chamey, and I says to him, I said, you ready to go? And he looks at me and I go, yeah, I'm ready to go. I said, how about you? You ready to go? And he goes, I ate my Wheaties today. And he leaves the room. And I'm like, you might be too young, but eating your Wheaties on the box, he was, breakfast of champions. So, I'm feeling good. And just a short story, when I'm going through there now getting prepped, I'm getting ready to go to the operating table, and the last anesthesiologist is a UK fan. And he's like outrageous. He's got Scrubs UK here. He's got the big long Delk UK wristbands, UK on the front. He's got his gown on. He's got UK on it. And I'm like, I guess you're a UK fan, huh? And this is the last person I'm going to talk to before I go under for this. Oh, yeah, I love Big Blue. And I love John Calipari. And I'm like, what? He goes, I know, I love John Calipari. I go, I got a story for you, my man. I said, John Calipari is a personal friend of mine from when we were kids in high school. And he, like, the guy freaks out that I know Calipari. And I'm thinking, my whole life, for some reason, the weirdest person or the craziest person in the whole room is always coming over to me. And here, before I'm getting ready to leave this consciousness of this earth, this planet, I got this guy who's a Kentucky nut in front of me. And I'm thinking, what a fitting way to go if this is the last person I see. But
what year? Well, listen, what year was this? Because I actually sat next to John Calipari at the Cleveland Indians World Series game in 2016, Game 7 against the Cubs.
Oh, wow. If I was 2014.
It was
2014 was when I went.
When I say November 2016, I saw Calipari. He was like right next to me, and I was like, nobody, not that many people knew who he was. I'm like, yeah, it's John Calipari, man, college basketball legend. So
yeah,
after the surgery, you wake up, right? You're like, oh crap, I'm alive. Then what? What was the?
Well, that was interesting because that length of 12 hours anesthesia, it didn't come out. I didn't unwind from that for almost 3 days.
Yeah, well,
so
that's not the worst thing ever.
It was really crazy because their ICU, everything was on wheels. So when I initially came to consciousness or came back, I thought I was in a damn spaceship. So, like, you're up 15 stories, and there's windows on both sides of the building. So the whole floor is the ICU. And they actually made my bed go vertical. So, like, I'm laying this way, and it comes straight up. They're doing every morning. I had to get an X-ray, but I was I thought I was in a spaceship, and the nurse that was there had haircuts. She had the worst haircut I ever seen. I actually made fun of her haircut. It was Haircuts by Mo. It was a straight on bowl cut, right?
There you go.
And I was like,
you get that Lloyd Christmas Dumb and Dumber.
oh no,
haircut.
I went after her like a comedian. I was like, you're not serious with that haircut for real, are you? And I'm like, I got a tubes up my nose, and I'm giving her the business. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. That looks like an accident. You're going to leave the house like that? I mean, I just worked there ever. I remember giving her a really hard time. So I was like, it was sort of surreal because I was so grateful to realize that I had consciousness, but my body was so stiff after that, I didn't know what was going to work and what wasn't. So until the drugs like officially wear it all the way off, and then like the reality of what I had in front of me sunk in, I was just happy to be around and made it through round one, basically.
How'd you recover? Like, what was the recovery like after that? Or just recovering from the surgery? Like, did you have to, like, was that it? Like, they said the cancer was gone?
Well, I was there. They actually put me in New Vista Center, which is basically a hospice. And so I had a little over 3 weeks there, and it was like I had to prepare to get myself able to manage out in the world again. So I basically started out from the hospital in a wheelchair. I was there 10 days, so it's probably about 45 days from the operation that I was actually in a plane and heading back to Pittsburgh. Because I didn't have, with what had happened in my personal life, the facilities to do a clinical trial or to participate in one. And the lifeblood of what I needed, and that was just some family love and being in a place where I could really be comforted. It was really, that part was what was going to heal me. And I still had cancer in my lungs. I'm coming back to Pittsburgh. I don't know which hospital I'm going to in Pittsburgh because I haven't gotten that arranged yet. And I got renal cancer in my lungs. And
wow.
What I do know is in another 8 months, 10 months, from what had just happened from 2014 all through the year there, I had about a 10-month window for them to come up with a solution or a way to keep me alive. So I was very concerned.
So you just had to fight basically at the 22 days, then you had another 10 months after the surgery to like kind of just prepare for another difficult situation.
That's why I think when I didn't know what was wrong with me the first time, it was better. Because when I knew coming back and when I was back in Pittsburgh, it was just a whole different mental game. Like,
what do you say to someone out there that's dealing with that right now? How do you keep mentally strong?
I didn't bemoan having the trust in my Creator. Like, I'm raised Catholic, and so my mom was the whole time going, the Holy Spirit lives in you. You know that. It lives in you. He's alive and it's in you. You need to call on it. You need to ask the Holy Spirit to come alive in you. And so I went into a dialogue of that sort where that inner peace and those quiet moments we were talking about was, this is God in me. This is a little slice of what my Creator is, the Father and the Holy Ghost. And this is one of the forms of Him, this is my conscious voice that talks to me. And so I trusted it, but I didn't question it. So that's probably why, as time went by, I didn't teeter. I was probably more where the reality that this all goes on without you. This world and another event's going to happen, another class is going to graduate, another record's going to be broken, another X Games will come and go. You know what I mean? So it's like, and it all happens without you. So you kind of, I don't know. I didn't have the remorse kind of thing. It was just an incredible amount of disappointment. And so I don't know that I made that like epiphany moment where it's like, hey God, if you spare me, this is the person I'm going to be. And I think I was just looking for the best possible relationship that I could have with him. And so if that meant providing my own self, my own survival, and my own belief and faith could be of some inspiration or give somebody to a mindset that they could grab onto to help them, then this is a good life. I'm winding up on a good side of things. I can help people with my voice and just by being that I survived.
So what's a guy from Pittsburgh? What kind of business were you in when you went to LA chasing the big bucks?
I was in the apparel business. I had gotten. I was in the Ross Park Mall in Pittsburgh, and we developed some contacts there. And a fellow, David Mullen, who I just worked with, his line got purchased by American Eagle Outfitters. So we were over at the Javits Convention Center, and I'm making contacts and meeting people. So I was ready to do my own thing. And so those folks, they brought me in. I'm going to showroom in Bayside, New York. We get a sales rep and we get a sales on some stores. So the thing starts to blossom. Well, you're doing a trade show circuit. You're in Miami, you're in Chicago, you're in Dallas, you're in L.A. And they're like, when you go to L.A., the whole thing was 2 twin towers, and they're like 13 stories high, and the men's building and the women's building. And the entire apparel industry is in that one block. New York is all old school, and you're in different buildings and broken down elevators and schlepping clothes and nasty environments out on the street. And it was like, this isn't the way to do this. So I scrammed over to L.A. And I was there for 16 years, and 9.5 of it was doing that.
Sounds like an interesting life, that's for sure.
Well, the thing that was really crazy was you would make money in chunks, and then you wouldn't make money at all. So, like, when I was
Like,
selling
give me an example of tell me like the highs and the lows. Like, how much could you make like in a month? Like, what was your biggest score? Your biggest?
Well, see,
payday?
I never got in with a retailer per se where I was selling my stuff in bulk. So we were basically like a wholesaler. We were shelved as a one-off, and the military exchange people were buying off the internet our products. So you just get an email and tell you the order to fill. So I eventually got a shipping out of Arizona instead of just doing it myself. So it would come in. It was all automated. But, I mean, a good month was about $48K.
And profit.
55. You were keeping about a little over half. You're keeping maybe like 55, 60% of that.
I mean, 25.
Well, because you were taking that 35, 40% and dumping it back into the next round. But it grew up to 66, and that was the best month that I had, single month. But it was like you would do outdoor fairs that were just in malls. Like we did a California State Fair in 17 days. I did 31K. And so it's like, wow, that's a nice month. 31K.
Oh, cash too, probably, right?
Yeah, I had. Yeah. We did the Olympics. I had a situation where we were up Salt Lake City in 2002, and I go into Wells Fargo Bank where we were banking, and I had like 38K on me, and I have it in a gym bag, like you said, and I'm like, I'm here and I want to go into the business section, and like, what do you got? And I'm like, I got 38K. It was like I had armed guards come around me and in front of me and beside me. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, I'm getting treated. They take me in the back by the vault, and the money counter's in front of the vault, and they basically like, who are you? You got your ID? I'm like, you're looking at my bank account. Where I live. You know everything. You got my social security number. What do you, here's me. It's my driver's license. So they count it all out, and it's like, because Reno's a casino town. I didn't know that a lot of people bring in counterfeit money over there. So that's the suspicion. I'm coming in because I'm out in Salt Lake, 13,000 feet up, and I got layers of sweatshirts and hats on. So I probably, look like the type that might have been doing the gambling, and it's like, so I went in as a high profile unbeknownst to me, but it was funny watching them how they act. It's like the bank didn't want you had too much money. It wasn't like their comfort zone or anything.
Well, they got a lot of rules, for that reporting and stuff like that. It comes from your Cortese's back in the Ellis Island days, That's
there you go.
There you go. Full circle. So when you were in LA and you're with the wife, you guys are high flying, right? Like, what were you guys spending money on? Talk to me about that LA lifestyle. What's the most craziest thing you ever bought?
It was the thing with the apparel business is you didn't really get to enjoy it a whole lot.
Because you needed to go buy more clothes, right?
And it was your brick and mortar. So you were the times that what it was mostly. We were in right through Topanga Canyon onto Topanga Beach there on the Highway 1. So we would shuffle over for sunsets and things like that. It was more like we were unwinding. We weren't really going out a lot.
Gotcha.
But the house was primarily the investment.
What's a house in LA cost?
Ours got appraised at $1.4 million.
Woo!
Now I'm from Pittsburgh, and
that's a lot.
My take on it was I thought I was in about a $600,000 or $700,000 house back in Pittsburgh, and they were calling it 1.4 out in LA. But it was decent. It was like almost 3,200 square foot. Had a pool. I was on a mountainside property, so had a gorgeous view. So it was very cool. And Woodland Hills is at the end of the San Fernando Valley. It's not really in the valley. You're heading up into the mountain because you got Calabasas on the other side of that. And then you go through Topanga, and then you're on the water on the other side of the mountain. But you're completely out of the valley at that point.
So it's not the same Woody Hills that's over here.
No. That.
All right, well, before we wrap this show up, talk to us a little bit about your podcast and kind of like some of the guests that you've had on, some of the stories that you're sharing, and tell some of my listeners where they can find you at.
Well, the podcast primarily started out with the cancer, but it's primarily about people just overcoming the misfortunes and so forth in life. But what I do have is I have a lot of people who are e-commerce driven. And then we're talking about the things that I experienced, like with the spirituality. We got a Dr. Laudy on there who's very interesting. He's a psychologist about oncology. I got the surgeon that we were speaking so highly about, Dr. Chamey. I mean, I thought that was incredible to have an interview with the gentleman who performed an operation on you, let alone outside of getting to meet him. I don't think you ever see them again. He's a dear friend.
Nice.
And so I got a polymath on there, and Dr. DeMartini, and we got Ted McGrath. So these are people who are more e-commerce and more the modern type of businesses or entrepreneurs online. And then we got some stories with children going through cancer. We interview the caregivers in some of these cases. There's a gentleman, Robert Chelsea, he didn't have a face for 6 years.
Wow.
And it's like the story that he shares and the inner peace that this man has is, I mean, he's a gift to all of us. If we could just understand a piece of what he shares, it's amazing. And we've got some international guests. We did Dubai. We got a couple of people in Africa. We had a couple of guests out of Australia, UK. So it's been listened to in almost 100 different countries globally. So
wow, good for you.
Yeah, it's beginning to take root. It's a little bit of a chore to get to that 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, but that's the YouTube channel's primarily where we're growing. So it's Leave Your Mark Podcast or LeaveYourMarkVC.com is the website. And we're on Spotify, we're on iHeartRadio. You can hear us on Pandora, Stitcher.
80 episodes and you almost have 10,000 subscribers?
No, we don't. I said that's the tough part.
How many subscribers?
No,
how do you get subscribers, man? Like, because I've been doing this podcast. You're probably going to be episode, I don't know, around 60 or so. How do you, like, I do a really poor job of promoting my own show.
It's like this is the area where you and I are. It's like you kind of doing the groundwork. Because it's like we have, I think it's like 155 subscribers right now, and they kind of come in chunks. Like that first 50 is tough because you got to ask friends, and it's sort of like the Tupperware party you're selling to your Aunt Becky and all these kind of people. And it's like once you go through your family and friends on your likes and your subscribes, then you kind of start earning your stripes. So it jumped from, like, after that first 50, we went to 100 pretty quick. And now, like, this last 55, that happened probably in the last 45 days. And it's like the deal is you don't know which episode's really going to send you over the top. You just kind of stay into the consistent line of it. I am learning more about the keywords and the meta tagging and how you title the podcasts and the episodes, and then at the end screens and all this is a big deal to YouTube. So as we're fine-tuning that part, I believe that'll help get a lot more. But it's like others is being on podcasts like this. I get an opportunity to talk about what I'm doing, and we get in front of other audiences is probably the best way.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Well, there's one. Well, we're going to wrap this up, but there's always one thing I do at the end of every show. I kind of do like a rapid fire. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. I want you to think about this for a second. We're going to put you on an island completely by yourself, gone for the rest of your life. You're allowed to take one book with you. What book do you take?
Well, it'd probably be the Bible would be the one I'd be most comfortable with.
That's good. I like that. What movie would you take with you?
Probably Gladiator.
All right, I like that. That was Russell Crowe. It was a good one. That was a really good movie. What restaurant would you put on your island?
Oh man.
You gonna pick a Pittsburgh one or an LA one?
I'll go with the In-N-Out burger.
Oh, you're my man, dude. What do they call it? Animal style. I love the animal style, man. That's awesome.
We gotta get you an In-N-Out T-shirt or sweatshirt. You'll be grooving.
Every time I go to Vegas or Southern California, I always hit the In-N-Out. So, all right. Next question is: you're allowed to take a trip and go anywhere for a week. Where do you want to go? What part of the world?
Wow, I'd like maybe like a Bora Bora, or
right.
Maybe like Seychelles.
One of those crazy islands
in the West Indies,
where they have like the room like on the dock, like in the pier, like
yeah.
Stay out. Oh yeah, you could glass bottom floors. Oh,
Bora Bora would be tight. That would be really cool.
Well, let's go, man. Let's get a sponsor for your podcast and just start recording.
We'll roll over it. Yeah, that'll be sweet.
Last question I have for you. You're allowed to spend 24 hours with one person. It could be past, present, someone you know, someone that's a celebrity. You want to pick their brain for 24 hours and get as much wisdom as you can from them. Who's it going to be?
I would say Jesus, but I talk to him. I talk to him. I talk to him every day, all day. So he doesn't
I'm with
count.
You. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pick a human on this one. I think it would either be like Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, probably da Vinci.
Why?
I think, or if not him, then I'd go Albert Einstein, because they were big on imagination. Both of them, the root of their creativity and their thinking, I think they were big imagination that have the visual, and then Da Vinci incredible because of being an inventor. I think inventors are very, very neat how their minds work. But the idea that if someone like Einstein could be considered so smart, and he didn't consider any of that worth anything if he didn't have imagination. So he really had the heart of it all.
That's so good. Vince, I really appreciate you telling your story. And if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, go on Leave Your Mark VC.com, the website. I got access to me on there through my Contact Us. That would probably be the quickest way. Comment, like, and share on the YouTube channel. And my web address is Vinnie at VinnieCmarketing.com. That's Vinnie, VINNIE.
Well, if you guys got some value out of this podcast, go ahead, like, subscribe, comment below. Go check out my boy Vince's podcast, Leave Your Mark. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Big Fish Cares podcast. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Big Fish Cares podcast.